Our story begins with a boy in the 9th grade, Haruto, who has lost hope and feels aimless. But everything changes when a miraculous event occurs. Suddenly, he finds himself standing on clouds alongside a girl who tells him something incredible. She explains that he will be reborn with amazing magical powers. Excited by this news, Haruto eagerly agrees, envisioning a life of leisure where he can indulge in anime and video games using his newfound abilities. Without hesitation, Haruto accepts her offer, and she begins the process of reincarnating him. However, Haruto must start his life over as a baby. Fortunately, he's born into a royal family, and his father happens to be the king. He is born with the name Prince Reinhardt. The king is thrilled to have a healthy prince. The young prince bears the royal insignia on his left breast, a symbol of his noble heritage. While the king is happy, he asks the servant to test the prince's magic abilities. The king hopes the prince will have a magic level of 40 or 50. However, it turns out that the prince's magic level is only 2, and he can only perform barrier magic without any elemental power. This disappoints the parents as they believe the prince's magic level should be higher. They decide to find a solution by pretending that Prince Reinhardt passed away during birth. Haruto is frustrated by the possibility of a short life after his rebirth, despite his difficult past. The servant's attempts to change the king's decision fail, resulting in the prince being abandoned in a distant forest. Meanwhile, the woman who reincarnated Haruto granted him immensely powerful skills, although the measuring devices in that world can only show 2-digit magic levels. Additionally, she forgot to give him an elemental affinity. In truth, she bestowed upon Haruto a magic level of 1002. Alone in the forest, Haruto remembers his barrier magic and decides to test it. He envisions a transparent cube that works effortlessly. Haruto discovers he can manipulate the cube's size, color, and transform it into a bird. His imagination is the only limit to his power. Breaking free from his bassinet, he takes flight. Suddenly, a flame Fenrir emerges from the forest and attacks Haruto. Acting quickly, he creates a protective shield with a strong magical cube. Although he hurls hundreds of smaller magical cubes at the flame Fenrir, they prove ineffective. Undeterred, Haruto resorts to uprooting trees and launching them, briefly damaging and knocking down his opponent. However, she swiftly recovers. Determined to overcome the challenge, Haruto takes his abilities to the next level. He uproots a large mound, intending to throw it at the flame Fenrir. Unexpectedly, he hears a voice urging surrender. Surprised, he realizes it originates from the flame Fenrir herself, leaving him unsure of his next move. Flame Fenrir had intended to consume Haruto to replenish her own energy and life force. However, she did not anticipate the extent of his power. Intrigued by his unusual behavior, she questions his true identity, although Haruto is unable to speak. Yet, Flame Fenrir recognizes a sense of logical reasoning in his actions. Determined to communicate, Haruto devises a method using his magic. He creates a barrier that transforms his thoughts into audible sound, allowing him to speak normally. This surprising development deepens Flame Fenrir's curiosity about his identity. Haruto attempts to recall his royal name, but he prefers using the name Haruto instead. Haruto proceeds to explain that he was born in a distant kingdom, but his family abandoned him due to his low mana level. Flame Fenrir senses the extraordinary magnitude of his mana, surpassing human limits. Coming to a conclusion, she believes he is the reincarnated Demon King. Haruto, unwilling to reveal his past as a loser, decides to maintain the facade and claims to be the Demon King. This revelation astonishes Flame Fenrir, leading her to admit defeat and allow him to end her life. However, Haruto refuses and simply requests that she no longer attacks him. Taken aback by his response, Flame Fenrir promises not to harm him. Haruto bids farewell to Flame Fenrir, shortening her name to Flay for convenience, and moves away. However, Flame Fenrir misunderstands his intentions. She believes Haruto spared her life and bestowed upon her a new name. In her understanding, a pact is formed between them, and she swears her loyalty to him. Despite Haruto's attempts to explain the misunderstanding, Flame Fenrir does not listen, fully devoted to him. Suddenly, Haruto lands on the ground, looking exhausted. Flay checks on him, and he asks for milk. Due to their pact, Flay has to assist him. She transforms into a smaller, beautiful, and naked woman. Haruto feels shy and embarrassed, requesting her to put on clothes. She apologizes, and Haruto uses his magic to instantly create tight clothes for her. However, this only intensifies her attractiveness. She approaches him and starts undressing, asking him to mate with her so she can produce milk. Haruto declines her request, and Flay apologizes once again. As they hear someone approaching, Haruto tells Flay to communicate with the person using a magical spell, allowing them to exchange thoughts. A large man approaches, intending to take Haruto away. However, Flay refuses, emphasizing that Haruto is her master and her responsibility. The man retrieves a container of breast milk from his bag. Haruto asks Flay to feed him the milk, but she insists that he drinks her own breast milk instead. Surprisingly, the man turns out to be Haruto's relative, coming to save him. He had lost his own child before birth and believes that every life deserves a chance to live, which is why he came to rescue Haruto. Flay becomes emotional, shedding tears, and agrees to the man's proposal of becoming Haruto's personal attendant, ensuring she stays by her master's side. To create the illusion of Haruto's death, the man smashes Haruto's bassinet and pours blood over it. They then continue their journey together. 9 years pass, and Haruto is adopted into a caring family. Living with his father, mother, sister Charlotte, and Flay, he initially planned to leave once he no longer needed milk. However, the warmth and comfort of his new family changed his mind. The challenge he faces is Charlotte's dislike for him. After breakfast, she plays with Flay while Haruto watches from afar. Recognizing his struggle, their mother advises him to strengthen his bond with Charlotte and spend more time with the family. Furthermore, Haruto lies in his room, contemplating how to leave his family. He knows he can't abandon Flay, but her departure would break his sister's heart. Over the years, Haruto has been learning barrier magic and has even created a robotic clone of himself. However, he hasn't been able to make it speak or move yet. Just as he is lost in thought, his father interrupts his musings and calls for him. Haruto's father wants to train him in swordsmanship despite his limited magic skills. Haruto mentions his study of ancient magic to impress his father, but the father insists on teaching him. To compensate for his weak powers, Haruto creates a defensive barrier. They use wooden swords for training, and Haruto strikes first, but his father evades the attack, breaking Haruto's sword. Surprised, his father continues the fight and launches his own attack. Astonishingly, Haruto evades it, raising doubts about his abilities. It reminds Haruto of his mono-level misconception, but his father decides to continue training. Later, the father discusses with his wife the possibility of Haruto being a reincarnated demon. Despite not being her biological son, they commit to caring for Haruto and ensuring his happiness. Unexpectedly, Charlotte overhears the conversation, leading her to believe her brother might be a demon.